In the early 1980s, the world of historical research was shaken by an announcement that seemed impossible. After nearly 4 decades, the personal diaries of Adolf Hitler had allegedly been discovered. Hidden deep within Germany, preserved against all odds since the final days of World War II. According to reports, these diaries contained Hitler's own handwriting. Thousands of pages describing his private thoughts, his political visions, and his reflections during the war. For historians, journalists, and collectors, it was a discovery beyond imagination. The lost voice of one of history's most infamous figures had supposedly been found. The story began when the German magazine Stern revealed it had obtained a collection of notebooks said to have been recovered from the wreckage of a crashed Luftwaffe aircraft near Dresden in 1945. The plane, according to witnesses, had been carrying top-secret documents out of Berlin during the last days of the Third Reich. When the boxes were finally opened, inside lay dozens of black, leather-bound volumes, each embossed with the initials AH. The pages appeared aged, the ink faded, and the handwriting matched the known samples of Hitler's script. The editors of Stern immediately recognized the potential impact of what they were holding. If authentic, these diaries could change the way history understood Hitler, not just as a dictator or strategist, but as a man. They could reveal what he thought in private, what he feared, what he believed, and perhaps what he regretted. The announcement spread like wildfire. Major news outlets across the world, The Times, the New York Times, Der Spiegel, all ran headlines about the lost diaries of Hitler. Television networks broadcast special reports. Experts speculated about what revelations might lie within the pages. For a moment, the world was convinced that history was about to be rewritten. But even in those first moments of celebration, a quiet unease began to spread among historians. Some questioned the story's origin, how such an extraordinary collection could have survived 4 decades without anyone knowing. Others noticed inconsistencies in the tale of the crashed plane, or the convenient timing of the discovery. Still, the excitement was unstoppable. The world wanted to believe, and as Stern prepared to publish excerpts from the diaries, one haunting question began to echo through the corridors of power, the halls of academia, and the homes of millions watching the news. Could these really be the lost thoughts of Adolf Hitler? Or was the world about to fall victim to one of the greatest deceptions in modern history? For decades after the war, historians, psychologists, and biographers had struggled to understand the inner world of Adolf Hitler. His actions were documented in countless archives, his speeches recorded, his orders preserved, yet his personal mind remained a mystery. Who was the man behind the image? The private thinker, the obsessive planner, the dreamer, the destroyer. In the years following the collapse of the Third Reich, fragments of Hitler's thoughts had surfaced. Letters to Eva Braun, diary entries from his secretaries, notes from his physicians, and the infamous table talk transcripts recorded at his headquarters. But these sources were limited, controlled, filtered, and often unreliable. By the late 20th century, a powerful mythology had formed around Hitler's psychology. Some saw him as a madman driven purely by delusion, others as a cold, calculating strategist consumed by ideology. But the truth, historians admitted, remained elusive. This is why the idea of personal diaries, written by Hitler's own hand, had such a hypnotic effect. If real, they could reveal not just the political Hitler, but the emotional one. His insecurities, his beliefs about fate, his private anger toward his generals, and even his doubts about the war. When Stern claimed to have found them, the public was ready, perhaps even desperate, to fill that psychological void. The world wanted to know what Hitler thought in the quiet moments, behind the speeches, behind the chaos, behind the lies. Some imagined that within those pages lay confessions, admissions of guilt or glimpses of fear in the bunker. Others believed the diaries might expose hidden truths about his relationship with Eva Braun, his paranoia toward the SS, or his fascination with mysticism and destiny. In academic circles, excitement quickly mixed with rivalry. Publishers competed for rights, television producers prepared documentaries, and museums requested access to the pages. For historians who had spent their lives studying the Nazi regime, this could be the discovery of the century. Yet, for all the fascination, a darker idea lingered beneath the surface. If the diaries were indeed genuine, they might also serve to humanize Hitler, to make him appear less monstrous, more misunderstood, and that, to many, was dangerous. It risked reshaping how future generations perceived one of history's greatest criminals. Still, that possibility only deepened the intrigue. The idea that somewhere, in a forgotten corner of post-war Germany, lay the intimate reflections of Adolf Hitler, written in his own hand, untouched for nearly 40 years, was irresistible. It was the myth of total understanding, the promise that the final key to his mind had finally been found. But myths, as history often reminds, have a way of hiding the truth beneath their own illusion. And soon, that illusion would begin to unravel. The story of the Hitler Diaries begins not in an office or a library, but deep within the dense forests of Germany. It was in these secluded, often mist-covered woods that fragments of what would later be presented as Hitler's personal writings were first found. The discovery seemed extraordinary. A set of meticulously preserved notebooks, journals, and loose sheets, hidden from the public eye for decades. According to the accounts from those involved, the documents were initially stumbled upon by a private collector who had been exploring abandoned military sites and old bunkers left behind from the war. These items were remarkably intact, showing little sign of decay despite the harsh conditions in which they had supposedly been hidden. The collector, understanding the potential historical significance, quickly contacted historians and dealers who specialized in Third Reich memorabilia. The sheer possibility that these were Hitler's personal diaries generated immediate excitement. The idea that such intimate insights into one of history's most infamous figures could be preserved for posterity was irresistible. Scholars and publishers alike were drawn to the promise of first-hand accounts of Hitler's thoughts, daily routines, and strategic decisions during the war. The find seemed poised to rewrite portions of history, offering unprecedented access to the inner workings of the Nazi leader's mind. However, even from the moment of discovery, there were subtle signs that something was unusual. The documents appeared too well preserved for their supposed age. The ink and paper, while convincing at first glance, raised questions for experts trained in evaluating historical artifacts. Yet the allure of the content often overshadowed these doubts, as the potential revelations were too compelling to ignore. This initial discovery also set off a chain reaction. The documents were quickly transported to Berlin, where they would eventually come under scrutiny by private historians, archivists, and eventually journalists. Each party recognized the opportunity and the risk. If authentic, these diaries could become the most significant historical find of the 20th century. If fraudulent, they could cause irreparable damage to reputations and the understanding of history itself. The German forest where the diaries were found became, in effect, the starting point of one of the most sensational historical scandals of the post-war period. It was a place where history, legend, and ambition intersected, and where the desire to uncover hidden truths collided with the need for verification and scientific rigor. In this moment, the world was introduced to a mystery that would captivate scholars, journalists, and the public alike. What exactly had been discovered in that forest? And more importantly, could these diaries be trusted? The tension between hope and skepticism would shape the narrative of the Hitler Diaries for years to come, influencing the way historians, publishers, and the general public approached historical documents. Konrad Kujau was not a historian nor a scholar. He was a skilled forger, a man whose life had been defined by deception, petty crime, and an uncanny ability to imitate historical documents. Yet, it was this very talent that would propel him into one of the most notorious scandals of the post-war period. Kujau's role in the Hitler Diaries saga was central. Without him, the sensational discovery in the German forest would never have become a global media frenzy. Kujau's work was meticulous. He did not simply copy handwriting, he studied it, imitating every stroke, curve, and flourish of Hitler's distinctive script. He selected paper that could plausibly pass for wartime stationery and treated it with chemical solutions to give it the appearance of age. Each page was a product of both skill and deception, designed to convince even the most experienced historians that they were holding genuine primary sources. Over time, Kujau produced more than 60 volumes, each one carefully constructed to look like it contained the private reflections and directives of Adolf Hitler. From detailed notes on daily routines to purported strategic plans and political musings, the forgeries were convincing enough to escape immediate scrutiny. The scope of the operation was staggering. It was not a single falsified journal, but a full collection, intended to present an almost complete picture of Hitler's private world. Kujau's deception would never have reached such heights without the involvement of journalist Gerd Heidemann. Heidemann, a reporter for a prominent German magazine, believed he was holding the key to a monumental historical revelation. Fascinated by the allure of uncovering Hitler's private thoughts, he became Kujau's unwitting accomplice, promoting the diaries as authentic and even arranging their sale to publishers eager for a scoop. The collaboration between Kujau and Heidemann was a study in ambition and greed. They navigated the world of post-war Germany's media, exploiting the fascination with Hitler, the appetite for sensational stories, and the trust that scholars and publishers placed in historical artifacts. Money flowed, reputations were at stake, and the line between reality and fabrication blurred. Together, they fooled the media, historians, and even intelligence agencies, creating an illusion of authenticity that would shock the world when exposed. The environment of the time played a crucial role. Factories, printing presses, and workshops became the laboratories of deception, where ink, paper, and chemicals combined with Kujau's skill to produce convincing fakes. Smoke from cigarettes and the clatter of presses set the scene of ambition and secrecy. Each forged page was a product of both artistry and audacity, designed to exploit humanity's fascination with the man who had once dominated Europe. Yet, Kujau's motivations were not entirely monetary. There was a perverse sense of pride in outsmarting experts and institutions, in demonstrating that the desire for historical treasures could be manipulated by cunning and skill. The forgeries were more than just financial instruments. They were symbols of his ability to control perception, to bend reality to his will. In the end, the forger behind the lie is not just a story about criminal ingenuity. It is a window into post-war Germany, where fascination with the Third Reich, ambition, and deception collided. Kujau's forgeries remind us that history is not only written in books or archives. It can also be manipulated by those with skill, audacity, and the willingness to exploit human curiosity. The story that had captivated the world began to unravel when scientific analysis entered the scene. What had seemed like a monumental discovery was subjected to rigorous testing. Chemists and document experts examined the ink, paper, and printing methods in painstaking detail. It did not take long before indisputable signs of manipulation emerged. The ink contained compounds that did not exist during World War II, and the paper showed traces of modern treatments, including bleaching agents impossible to achieve in Hitler's era. The evidence was clear and undeniable. What had been presented as an intimate window into the Führer was revealed as a carefully constructed fabrication, a deception that had managed to fool even experts and journalists. The sophistication of the forgery was impressive, but science is unforgiving. Tiny chemical and physical details exposed the truth behind the volumes, revealing the full extent of the fraud. The impact on the academic and media world was immediate. Sensational headlines spread across newspapers and magazines, leaving no doubt. Fake, scam, hoax. The credibility of those who had promoted the collection collapsed, and reputations built over decades crumbled overnight. Institutions, publishers, and collectors faced an international scandal that echoed throughout Europe. The fall was swift and public. The main forger was arrested, facing charges of fraud and forgery, while the intermediaries who had trusted the diaries' authenticity found themselves at the center of a media storm. What had once been a worldwide sensation became a classic example of how easily even the most convincing historical artifacts can be exposed when science sheds light on deception. 6. What they really revealed. Inside the fake diaries. Even after the fraud was exposed, the content of the forged diaries remained a source of fascination. Carefully crafted to mimic Hitler's supposed personal thoughts, they offered a window into a world the public thought it understood. A world of obsession, paranoia, and meticulous planning. Every entry, though fabricated, was designed to feel authentic, with intimate reflections, military strategies. Experts noted how the forger had an uncanny sense of what people wanted to believe about Hitler. The diaries captured the image of a man both brilliant and monstrous, a strategic genius with ruthless impulses and yet deeply insecure. Phrases describing imagined fears, doubts, and frustrations mirrored the known history of Hitler's personality, reinforcing the illusion of truth. In many ways, the forgeries were more revealing of global perceptions of Hitler than of the man himself. When compared with historical records, striking contrasts emerge. The diaries depicted decisions and motives that often diverged from reality, yet they echoed documented traits. His obsessive paranoia, his megalomania, and the extreme isolation that marked his later years. They suggested intimate conversations and personal reflections that never happened, yet they resonated because they were consistent with the world's understanding of his character. The meticulous crafting made the lies believable. Psychologists and historians later reflected on why the diaries gained so much traction. They revealed not just the fascination with Hitler, but a broader human desire to peer behind the curtain of absolute power. Even in falsehood, the diaries exposed the world's enduring curiosity about the workings of a dictator's mind. A combination of fear, morbid fascination, and the hunger for insight into history's darkest chapters. Ultimately, these forged pages, while worthless as historical evidence, highlighted a psychological truth: the global obsession with understanding evil, the need to humanize a monster, and the readiness to believe what confirmed long-held perceptions. In this sense, the fake diaries were a mirror, reflecting the world's own imagination and anxieties, more than the reality of the man they claimed to represent. When the forged diaries first appeared, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Newspapers splashed headlines proclaiming an unprecedented historical discovery. Television networks and radio programs carried urgent reports, each segment intensifying the perception that the world had finally gained intimate access to Adolf Hitler's private thoughts. Historians, collectors, and even intelligence agencies treated the documents as genuine, often quoting passages as if they were direct evidence of the dictator's mind. The forger's success lay not only in technical skill, but in timing. In the early 1980s, global fascination with World War II and the Third Reich was at its peak. The public craved new revelations, anything that could illuminate the psychology of one of history's most infamous figures. Journalists, eager to scoop competitors and capture audiences, amplified the story without sufficient verification. This hunger for sensational truth made the forgery irresistible. Governments and academic institutions also fell into the trap. Some agencies commissioned preliminary analyses, while universities debated the implications of these supposed first-hand accounts. The forgery exploited the very systems designed to preserve historical accuracy, revealing how even experts could be misled when desire overrides skepticism. Public fascination took on almost surreal proportions. Bookstores sold editions before verification, collectors paid extraordinary sums, and talk shows dissected individual passages as though they were confessions. For a brief moment, the fake diaries became a global phenomenon, dominating headlines and conversation alike. The aftermath, when the deception was revealed, was equally dramatic. Newspapers printed retractions, historians issued apologies, and intelligence agencies quietly reviewed their involvement. Those who had championed the diaries' authenticity faced professional embarrassment, while the general public grappled with the realization that something so widely accepted could be entirely fabricated. Yet, beyond scandal and shame, the story of the fake diaries offers a broader reflection on human nature. It was not just a forgery, historians later remarked. It was a mirror reflecting humanity's hunger for dark truths. The episode revealed society's persistent desire to peer behind the facade of evil, to understand what motivates dictators, and to uncover the private world of history's notorious figures. The global obsession with the diaries, even after exposure, underscores the power of narrative and the human inclination to believe what confirms our expectations about evil, power, and intrigue. In essence, the fake diaries became more than a story of deceit. They became a case study in media influence, collective fascination, and the delicate boundary between truth and the story we wish were true. As the frenzy over the forged diaries faded, a quieter, more sobering reality emerged. There were no secret journals tucked away in attics or hidden in German forests. There were no handwritten confessions or private contemplations revealing new depths of Hitler's thoughts. What remained were the tangible, irrefutable records. The archives filled with official documents, orders, speeches, and testimonies from those who lived and worked under his regime. These were the real diaries of a dictator, written not with ink and paper, but with deeds, policies, and actions that shaped the fate of millions. Historians turned back to the original sources, the chilling directives of the Third Reich, The meticulous planning of genocides, the letters and reports from his generals, and the accounts of survivors who witnessed the machinery of terror firsthand. Here, the reality of Hitler's mind could be studied. Paranoid, megalomaniacal, and utterly ruthless. Unlike the fabricated diaries, these sources offered no narrative convenience or humanizing fiction. They demanded reflection, discomfort, and an unflinching confrontation with the consequences of his ideology. The fascination with the fake diaries reveals something profound about humanity. People longed for insight into the mind of evil, for a glimpse behind the mask, for stories that could explain, rationalize, or even normalize what was incomprehensible. Yet the truth, the real diaries, embedded in archives, trial records, and historical analysis, shows that Hitler's mindset was far less human and far more horrifying than any forgery could ever convey. In the final analysis, the incident serves as a lesson in critical thinking, the dangers of sensationalism, and the enduring need to seek facts over stories. The fake diaries attempted to humanize a monster, to create intimacy with someone whose deeds were monstrous. But the real story, drawn from authentic evidence, leaves no room for comfort or curiosity, only understanding and remembrance. As the screen fades to black, the words appear. History can be faked, but truth always resurfaces. The music is solemn, echoing the weight of human memory and the responsibility to preserve it. In that silence, the audience is left with a stark reflection that while lies can captivate the world temporarily, reality, grounded in verified evidence, endures far beyond the fleeting allure of deception. In the end, the real diaries of a dictator are not bound in leather or ink, but in the actions, suffering, and consequences left behind. A permanent testament to history, its darkest chapter, and a warning that truth, however inconvenient, always finds a way to reveal itself.